All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to completely shatter a deeply ingrained historical illusion. We're looking at the synchronous era of Romans and samurai. It is a mind-bending reality check about our past that honestly sounds like absolute fiction, but is 100% true. Just let this sink in for a second. Romans and samurai existed on Earth at the exact same time. I mean, it sounds like some wild matchup from a video game, right? But it's an absolute, verifiable historical fact. Two of the most legendary warrior societies in all of human history were walking the Earth at the exact same moment. Okay, let's dive into this because we really have to ask ourselves, why is our historical timeline so broken? Why does our brain just instantly reject this fact? Well, it's because textbooks love to separate world events into these neat little isolated boxes. We learn about ancient Rome in one chapter and then feudal Japan in another, separated by hundreds of pages. So naturally, our brains just assume they belong to completely different eras. Chapter 1, History is completely broken. So this is really where the timeline illusion begins. Most of us just assume Rome completely collapsed in 476 AD. We picture, barbarians at the gates, the last emperor stepping down, and boom, the Roman Empire is wiped off the map forever. But actually, that's only half the story. While the western half fell, the eastern half didn't just survive, it carried the torch and absolutely thrived. Chapter 2. The Roman Empire survived. Now, modern historians love to call this the Byzantine Empire to differentiate it, but make no mistake here. The citizens living there did not call themselves Byzantines. They called themselves Romans. They practiced Roman law. Under great leaders like Justinian, they considered themselves the unbroken continuation of the state, and they were governed by a direct line of Roman emperors ruling from behind the massive, heavily fortified Theodosian walls of Constantinople. They just happened to speak Greek instead of Latin. And this brilliantly illustrates how the story doesn't just end. The Western Roman Empire falls in 476 AD, sure, but through the 500s AD, the Eastern Roman Empire is thriving. They're building massive structures, organizing legions, and acting as a total global superpower all the way until 1453 AD. So the Roman state was very much alive and kicking throughout the entire Middle Ages. Moving on to Chapter 3, Rise of the First Samurai. All right, let's shift gears and look at what was happening in Japan during the exact same time those Roman emperors were sitting in Constantinople. In the 700s AD, the early Heian period begins. Now, by the mid to late 8th century, the Japanese imperial court had a real problem on their hands: rebellions. To suppress them, they began relying on heavily armed mounted regional warriors. And as we move into the late 700s AD, these elite martial clans grew massively in power. But you have to understand, these weren't just regular soldiers. These were the very first samurai. We're talking about elite martial clans relying on heavy armor, horse-mounted archery, early polearms like the naginata, and what would eventually become the legendary code of Bushido. It is absolutely crucial to grasp the immense cultural weight of this moment. They are rising up to become a dominant military class, all while the Roman Empire is still standing tall. Which brings us to Chapter 4, the 700-year overlap. 700. Just take a moment to truly comprehend that number. This wasn't a brief passing in the night. It wasn't just a few weird years where a couple of lingering Romans maybe heard rumors about Japan. No, these iconic cultures coexisted on Earth for 7 centuries. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the direct juxtaposition because it is staggering. On one side of the world, in Constantinople, you have a Roman emperor sitting on his throne, organizing professional military legions and actively defending massive stone walls from medieval sieges. And at that exact same time, over in Kamakura, Japan, you have a shogun ruling over the land, leading entire armies of katana-wielding samurai into bloody clan wars. Both happening, same planet, same time. So to really cement this massive paradigm shift, the Roman Empire was fully alive and thriving when the world's first samurai were born. They experienced an unbroken coexistence for centuries. It's a complete, undeniable overlap of two extremely distinct warrior ages that pop culture insists belong to entirely different universes. Chapter 5, The End of an Era. 1453. The Roman Empire did not truly die until May 29, 1453. That is the exact date when the supposedly impenetrable walls of Constantinople finally fell under the massive cannons of Mehmed II and the Ottoman Empire. So, over 1,000 years after the western half fell, the East finally collapsed, taking the Roman Empire with it for good. But the sheer duration of this overlap is what really leaves you speechless. Because by that exact year, 1453, when Rome drew its final breath, the samurai weren't just the new kids on the block. They were completely established. They had already been dominating Japanese warfare and culture for almost 700 years. They were essentially ancient history in their own right by the time Rome actually fell. We really need to stop looking at history as a series of disconnected chapters and start looking at it as a giant interconnected web where the most incredible things are happening simultaneously. So I want to leave you with this thought. If Romans and samurai shared the exact same world for 700 years, what other historical timelines in our heads are completely wrong? Think about that. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. Stay curious and keep questioning those timelines.